All right, welcome back to JB Squared. I'm JB Hager, joined by the original JB, Johan Brunel, to get his take on the stage one of the 2023 Tour de France and to look ahead at tomorrow and what's going on with the teams, individuals, all of that. And also a very unprecedented thing happened today. If you haven't seen it, I won't give away too much, but I'm guessing if you're listening to this and haven't seen it yet, you don't mind. Something cool happened with brothers in the Tour de France. So we will get to all that in a second. But first, I just have a couple of messages and offers from our partners. Our first partner I want to tell you about is HVMN. I wish you could see it. Well, you'll probably see it on some of our social posts for sure. But they sent us a whole ketone IQ fridge that we have down in the studio. And it's loaded with their shots of ketones, ketone IQ. And everybody's just geeking out about it and using it. I've been using it daily for about 3 months, a shot a day. And, you know, you guys know if you've been listening to the show, I'm not going to be the kind of guy where I go, here's how I'm performing physically. But I can tell you this, mentally, I feel much, much better using ketones because it delivers fuel that can cross the blood-brain barrier and supply your brain with sustained energy, mental focus, and sharpness. I've definitely felt an improvement. Worth it for me on that category alone. And most of the peloton is using ketones, and HVMN is a great partner of ours with this. So check it out. They're also available in Sprouts throughout the U.S. if you have one of those in your city. You can save 30% off your first subscription order of Ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. Again, visit hvmn.com/themove and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. Also, a great partner of ours is Ventum Bikes, ventumracing.com. In fact, Dia, the founder, CEO, he's been here in Colorado. We've been getting some time with him. Everybody's getting their new NS1s and GS1s. I just got the new GS1 a couple months ago. Really enjoying a gravel bike. Never owned a gravel bike before in my life, and just can't get enough of it. It just sort of opens your mind up about where you want to go and ride and stay fit and have fun, ride with your friends. It's really, really great. The all-new GS1 is now available in the minted colorway. It's exclusively with SRAM Apex AXS for just $29.99. Now you can get into a GS1 for $3,000, right? That really is amazing. Go check them out. The build out on their site, when you spec out your bike, covers everything. You can pick your components. You can pick your crank length. You can pick the width of your handlebars, your stem length. It really is amazing and very, very user-friendly to build out your bike. So get 10% off when you use the code WEDO, WEDU, at checkout at ventumracing.com/themove. Okay, again, 10%. Use the code WEDO, ventumracing.com/themove. Okay, Johan, I am excited to talk to you about it today. What a way to kick off the Tour de France. I can't help but keep thinking about how quite often you have a prologue or a very flat stage to kick off the tour. I mean, from my recollection, during your days as a director, it always seems like you would ease into the tour on week one. No, not the case. 182K and a big climb right out of the bang. It made for an exciting stage one.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously very special, JB. And before I start, this year also first time JB Squared on video for people who watch us instead of just listening to us.
No,
right?
It's nice because there were a lot of people very confused on YouTube, especially people who are very visual, like to watch the show. In the comments over the past couple of years, they were always like, "Where's Johan? Where's Johan?" Mm-hmm. And I'd have to say it's an audio feed only and send them to that. Yeah. But not everybody uses audio podcast as their platform of choice. So yes. This is a new thing for us this year.
Yeah, but as you say, JB, it's a very, very unusual way to start off a Grand Tour. Starting the Basque Country is almost, obligation that it's going to be hard. Today was hard. Tomorrow is not easy either. But especially today, and the final with that steep climb at the end. a couple of really, really harder climbs before that, and especially the nerves and the speed, the cruising speed of the Tour de France at the beginning. It's so different than any other race and any other Grand Tour even, is that everybody's nervous at the start of the Tour de France. The teams are super ready. Everybody wants to be in the front. And we saw that today. Today, for example, there was initially a breakaway of 5 riders. They went from the gun with the approval of the peloton, but we all knew that this breakaway would not stand a chance. And actually, there was a point where certain teams were pulling in the peloton. The Soudal Quickstep was pulling, and Alpecin was pulling. But actually, the breakaway got brought back, not with when the peloton didn't have the intention to pull them back, but only with the increase of the speed. When they got to some narrow parts or to a hill, all of a sudden they were reeled in. So you could see that also on some of the climbs, that particularly that the third and second category climb. You could see the peloton wide over the road, but going fast, and guys were getting dropped in the back. Normally, you would see a team setting the pace and guys getting dropped in the back. In the Tour de France, this is different. Sometimes I'm saying, minimum 5 kilometers per hour, sometimes 10 kilometers per hour faster is the cruising speed of the peloton in the first week of the Tour.
The first week.
Yes, later, of course, people get tired and it slows down. But the first week of the Tour is just something else. And already today we could see that straight from the gun.
Yeah, you have always historically talked about those first day and first week jitters, and people settle in. But this was such an interesting stage one. Do you feel like we did see a couple crashes. We'll get to that. A couple of people crash out. One crashed out entirely, but maybe a much safer scenario than a sprint stage for stage one when you have the jitters.
Yeah, I think so. I think for the GC riders, definitely this is a better stage, and especially if they have a strong team. To name both of the big favorites, Jonas Vingegaard and Pogacar with their teams, Jumbo-Visma and UAE. For them, this was a less stressful stage, and it's still stressful. But if it's hilly, they by definition come to the front, right? And in the last 30, 40 kilometers, there was not a lot of people who were fighting for position. Normally, you have the sprinters with their sprinter teams, or some other teams who want to try and drop sprinters. This was not the case. Everybody knew that all the sprinters were going to get dropped, and it was just a matter of how many people could be there. And it came to a point where when the real final started, I think there was about 50 riders left in the peloton before the last climb. So I think that was kind of nice for the favorites.
But before we talk about the GC battle and other things that transpired today, we've got to talk about the Yates brothers. This was incredible to see them both break away and keep that gap, and for twin brothers to win like that. Just we've never seen anything quite like that, have we?
You could not write that scenario. I was imagining, in the. I don't know if they're at the race or not. If they're at home in the living room of the Yates parents, it must have been amazing to live that. This is unique. You have two sons, identical twins, and they're both world-class cyclists, and they're in a breakaway together in stage one of the biggest race in the world. That's super, super unique. And I also was asking myself the question, what would they be talking about? How do they feel? Obviously, Adam Yates was super happy. I saw the interview of Simon Yates. He was not that happy. They're both winners, right? Simon Yates already won. He's a Grand Tour winner. He won the Tour of Spain. He's won some big races already, and they're both really, really good riders. And obviously, Simon Yates was probably doing a little bit more work than Adam Yates, because Adam Yates was riding at the service of Pogacar. Actually, he had to go on the radio and ask permission to be able to roll through. But I mean, once he got that okay from the team, it was clear that they were not going to get caught, because these guys were just not going to look at each other. They were just going to go to the finish.
Don't they say that identical twins sometimes can communicate telepathically? Like, they've spent so much time together that they don't have to say anything, probably. Right?
I know. I mean, listen, they've grown up to get racing bikes together. They look identical on the bike. I mean, now obviously they're in a different team, but otherwise you would not be able to tell them apart. What an amazing moment to witness, identical twin brothers being 1 and 2 and coming together to the finish. That's just amazing. And I mean, I think for a guy like Adam Yates, who after the stage clearly said, that he was here to be at the service of Pogačar, although the team was trying to deflect a little bit of attention and said, he's our co-leader. He's not the co-leader. Pogačar's the leader.
Right. And
he made that very clear. But for him to be able to win stage 1, wear yellow, and I think the nice thing also was that it, in the last few hundred meters, it was clear who was the strongest, because Simon Yates got dropped, right? He was cramping. It was not like, I mean, I wonder would they have really sprinted? Like, would they have sprinted full gas for it? I mean, I was thinking, okay, Simon Yates won already stages in the Tour, more than one. Adam Yates, I don't think he won a stage in the Tour. He was 4th in the Tour de France one year, and he won the young competition. He won the white jersey. It's already, I think, 6 or 7 years ago. But yeah, I mean, what an amazing thing to see those two guys coming to the finish for the win. That was very special to see.
Well, you already kind of answered part of my next question. Adam Yates is there in service of Pogačar, so we know his goals for the remainder of the Tour. What does this mean for Simon Yates? Is he a stage hunter or a real contender for the podium?
I think Simon Yates initially starts to do the GC. He's a good climber. He has shown that he can be in the top of the Grand Tours. Won the Vuelta a number of years ago. Has been trying to go for the Giro a few times. Didn't work. And now, without too much noise, without too much talking about him, but he's one of the guys. He's one of the top 10 guys, maybe top 5 guys, and the team, his team, Jaiko Alula, I think, is split in between him for GC and then sprints for Groenewegen. So, the fact that he's there, first of all, with the best guys. I mean, he was not there with Vingegaard and Pogačar and the other guy. That was a surprise, actually, Victor Lafay, the Cofidis guy, to be up there with the 2 best riders in the world. But the fact that he was so close shows obviously that he's in good shape. It's a short climb, steep climb. This is their specialty. And the Yates brothers. But still, I mean, it's a proof that he's in great shape. And I think Simon Yates, with this kind of start, for the moment, he's definitely going to pursue GC.
All right, now let's talk GC. And you said it, Johan, on the preview show. Leading up to the preview show, people wondered about Pogačar's form, not getting as much racing in because of his injury. But in the preview show, you looked into some time trial stats of his that clearly showed he's on peak form. We got a good look at him today, and again, almost with a smile on his face. He can do whatever he wants. So our 2 big GC contenders both look fantastic on day one. What did you observe?
Well, what I saw was, first of all, Pogačar with a lot of confidence, and his team. The fact that and that's something that it's on the one hand, it's good to see, because it shows that they really believe, his team UAE, they believe in Pogačar from day one. Because on the second last climb and on the last climb, both of those climbs, they started the climbs full gas, UAE. as if they were doing a lead out for a Pogačar attack. Which I found a bit strange, actually. This is something, everybody's nervous, and there's certain riders in the team who have a designated job, right? So, for example, I can only imagine from what I saw is that on the second last climb, Mikkel Björk, the Danish guy, his mission was, Mikkel, you come into that climb and you go 2 kilometers full gas, with the intention to stretch out the peloton and with the intention that Pogačar doesn't have to fight for position, because if it bunches up, you can lose positions. Now, I think he did it a bit too good, because he was going unbelievably fast. There was no way that anybody had to fight for position. So he did 2 kilometers at an extremely hard pace. And then there was no continuation of UAE, and Jumbo-Visma took over at I'm not going to say a moderate pace, a fast pace, but they were in control. So that was something that I said, okay, that's strange to see Mikkel Bjerg going so fast and then basically not following up on it. And then on the last climb, the same thing happened. At the bottom of the climb, we had this Austrian rider, Felix Groschartner, who also had his mission. For sure, they said, okay, Felix, at the bottom of the last climb, you go to the front and you set a pace for 1 kilometer as fast as you can, or a fast pace. Well, as fast as you can was really fast, because he went away, and not just a little bit, like a lot. And then basically that effort that Groschartner didn't really help UAE at all, because, they were, I think Jumbo-Visma was chasing him down, but then Adam Yates had to do the tempo. I don't know what their intention was there. It looked to me like the intention was that Pogačar would attack. He tried, but to me, it didn't make any sense to attack there, because on a climb that of 2 kilometers long, he's not going to drop his main rival, Vingegaard. And that would be the only benefit of an attack, right? And if you attack on that climb, then you still have, I don't know how much it was, 10 kilometers to the finish. So even then, if Pogačar would have attacked and took 10 seconds on that climb, which was the maximum he could do, well, he knew that Jumbo-Visma was going to have 3 or 4 guys and they would reel him back in. So it didn't make any sense. So what I saw was, on the one hand, UAE, all the riders, very strong, really good condition, not the smartest tactics, in my opinion. It seems like, once Pogačar's in the race and Pogačar shows that he's super strong and super confident, they kind of are out of control. They do their job too well. And sometimes, and especially on day one, you need to be careful with what you do. But at least UAE gets away with the knowledge that their team is strong, that Pogačar is strong, and on top of that, they get the win and the first yellow jersey, which is, of course, independently whether they use the right tactics or not, or whether they spend too much energy or not, they start the Tour de France on a high, and the confidence is there, the confirmation is there that there's always doubts of these riders. They've done these training rides, they've done these altitude camps, and there's always doubts of, okay, how good am I now in this bunch? So they got the answer. They are ready. So that's what I saw.
I can kind of hear your voice in my head though when you saw UAE like with these attacks going, guys, this is my Johan. Guys, it's a 3-week race. It's a 3-week race, right? That's what I can hear you saying. Whereas Jumbo-Visma, on the other hand, they weren't panicking. They weren't attacking. Yeah. They were sticking together. They were just, they seemed to be more so in the mindset of patience, guys, patience. Is that what you saw?
They rode smart. They even Vingegaard himself, when he seems to have matured as a rider, because he knew Pogačar wasn't going to drop him on that climb. He stuck to his wheel. He kind of expected Pogačar to attack. Never was in any problems when Pogačar asked him for to do a turn. He said no. clearly we saw that on TV, and he knew that he had to, create a situation where 2 or 3 of his teammates came back. First of all, to be around him, but also they definitely had a plan today that to try to have Wout van Aert have the stage win. That didn't work because the Yates brothers had super legs and they couldn't catch them. That's as simple as that. That's also what Wout van Aert said at the finish. He tried, and they were the Yates brothers were a bit stronger today than them.
And it was cool to see. I'm jumping back to Pogačar to see that celebration he had. A lot of people watching it were like, "Oh, did he think he won?" That wasn't the case at all. He got, he probably saw his teammate up the road celebrate, because I imagine with those crazy crowds, he didn't know from the radio that his teammate had won. It would have been difficult with all that noise and everything.
Yeah.
But I think he probably looked up the road and saw them celebrating, right?
Definitely saw it. And yeah, I mean, his celebration was definitely one of joy. For sure, he did not think he had won. I'm sure about that. Maybe it's also, it's the first day in the Slovenian jersey. He's probably not going to wear it anymore for the rest of the tour. So maybe he wanted the picture in his Slovenian jersey winning.
You never think about them trying to stage a photo.
Yeah, but no, if you see the joy and after the stage, how happy he was for Adam Yates, that was, I mean, obviously their dinner table today is incredible. And they're going to have more difficult times, but if you start like this, it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling.
Now, a couple teams having horrific luck, bad luck on day one, and you can tell us how this affects what they're going to do as a team. Both Movistar and EF. With the Enric Mas already out, Carapaz pretty banged up, losing 15 minutes. He's not going to know how he feels until tomorrow morning, probably, or the next day. But rough start for those two teams. What does this mean?
That's just the other side of the medal. I mean, you have UAE, euphoric, and then you have, and it can happen. It can happen. And in the case of Movistar, for example, they went to this Tour de France with one leader, one objective: be on the podium. The whole team around Enric Mas, and on day one, crashing like that and having to abandon, it is the worst. It's a disaster for them. There's gonna be obviously it's a very experienced team. They've been around for as long as I know cycling. But they have to readjust now, and they did a lot of training camps together. Obviously their talking strategy, their training, they see how their leader improves. I think they all had confidence in him, and so losing him on day one, that's just terrible. How to readjust? It'll take a few days. There's still good riders in there. It's going to be stage hunting, of course. And then maybe I didn't see how much time he lost, but Matteo Jorgensen will of course now have a free roll and can maybe do a good GC. Even if he lost a couple of minutes today, I think he still can do a good GC. But
for those who don't know, that's another American hopeful on the rise.
Yeah.
And same thing too with EF. We got another American that might have some more freedom. Yes. With Nielsen Palace, who looked good today.
Same thing. They had one leader, Carapaz. They were also convinced that he could be on the podium. He's been on the podium already. Grand Tour winner, won the Giro, Olympic champion, had this ambition, left Ineos to go to EF to have, the sole leadership of the team. And, he was able to continue. At some point, it didn't look really good. He was, really having a lot of trouble getting back on his bike. He finished the race. Obviously, GC is over, and we'll see how he is tomorrow. Because tomorrow, that kind of impact on the knees, I think he hit both knees. That's only going to get worse tomorrow. So whether he can finish tomorrow's stage or not, that's still a question. But at least he was able to finish the race, and he's going to try to stay in the race. We've seen him do these things, like having a bad first part of a Grand Tour and then go on. Last year, for example, he was, not because of crashes, but he lost a lot of time in the first week of the Vuelta and went on to win 3 stages. So we'll see. Recovering from a bad crash like that in the Tour de France, that's a whole other game. That's not easy. It's really, really difficult. On the other hand, joy for Nelson Paulus, who was able to get that sprint on the second last KOM, I guess, take 5 points and be the first polka dot jersey of the Tour de France. That's amazing.
Yeah, and he's not, Nelson Paulus is not just an opportunist grabbing points.
No.
I mean, he's the real deal.
Yeah, no, he can climb. He's a climber. So he can climb. He has experience in Grand Tours, and now, I mean, I think he did the Giro a few times, did the Tour de France last year. So yeah, I mean, the bad luck of Carapaz could be a blessing for Nelson Paulus to be able to go his own chance and ride for a GC, and I think he's capable of going for a top 10. He definitely has it in his legs, and maybe get close to top 5. Who knows? He's a quality rider.
Before we take a look at tomorrow's stage, I want to get your thoughts on that real quick. There's an opportunity to win a Ventum NS1, the road bike, and it's easy to get into the drawing. It's super easy. We're going to do a trivia question every day. All you have to do is send in your answer via email, trivia@ventumracing.com. The question today is, and of course, you can use whatever resources you want to look this up. That doesn't matter. We just want you to play along. The question is, what is the highest mountain pass in this year's Tour de France? Okay, what is the highest mountain pass in this year's Tour de France? Just send it to trivia@ventumracing.com. And just by entering that, submitting, you'll be eligible to win a complete NS1 at the end of the tour. So
great bike. Great bike.
It is a great bike.
My son is waiting for his.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm on the NS1 and just got a GS1 a couple months ago. Loving it.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely loving it. And you were right with the being over 50, that geometry on the gravel bike.
Told you.
A little more friendly. It's an awesome bike. Okay, now let's take a look at tomorrow. Again, an interesting stage for GC and some other opportunists, in particular Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel.
Yeah,
this kind of has their name all over it, does it not?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the Basque Country, so there's a few categorized climbs, and then there's a bunch of climbs that the guys will say, where was this on the profile, right? It is hard terrain, and especially around San Sebastian, a lot of I mean, all the riders know the area from the Classica San Sebastian, which is the first world tour race after the Tour de France, and they actually do the High Ski Bell, which is the typical climb in the Classica San Sebastian. Now, the difference is that the High Ski Bell is done in the opposite way, not the way that they usually go up, the way that everybody knows, but on the other side. So they come up what normally they go down, and then they go down. I think the downhill is a bit steeper this way down, and then they go to San Sebastian. So I think it's about 15, 16 kilometers from the top of the climb to the finish. Obviously not going to be a bunch sprint. Sprinters have no chance. But strong riders who are fast have a chance. So the question is, first of all, what will UAE do, right? They won the stage today. They have the yellow jersey. Will they try to keep the jersey? My reply and my advice to them would be no. Do not try to keep the jersey, but they go for everything nowadays. So I think it would not be smart to really defend the jersey. And if they keep it, it's possible they keep it, but it should be because other teams have different plans, right? Don't put your team to work to defend that jersey. I think there's other interests. There's, for example, in my opinion, Mathieu van der Poel, who wasn't able to hang today with the first group, which was kind of a little bit expected. He was himself in doubt whether he could make it or not. He already said that before the stage. Tomorrow he can definitely do that. It's longer. It's not as steep. I think Mathieu van der Poel can do it tomorrow, and definitely Wout van Aert. Those two, but then there's other riders, right? There's other riders who who were not there today, who could also. But if you talk about Pidcock, for example, should be able to get over it. Is a great descender. I mean, we all know that. So who knows about that, right? If he makes it over the top and goes crazy downhill, then who is going to follow him, right? So we'll see about that. But I think a breakaway has a chance, although it is early in the tour, and there's always at the beginning of the tour, if there's still a yellow jersey up for grabs. I would need to check. I think with the bonifications for Van Aert, it's probably not going to be possible. But still, it's not going to be a bunch sprint. I do not expect to see any attacks between the big favorites. I think it's too risky and too far. They're gonna be in front, but if you attack on the high ski bale, for example, and you get 5, 10, 15 seconds, then you need to take a bunch of risks in the downhill to try to hold on to that difference. And I personally think it's not worth it.
We've seen that movie before with those two GC guys chasing each other downhill, and it almost ended a race for both of them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But this is early so it's going to be them, and there's going to be other riders. If they would go full gas on the high ski bale, there'll probably be both of them, and maybe a third or a fourth rider. But there's going to be guys that are not far down who will come back, who can then try to something in the downhill or even in the last kilometers, and it's going to be up to the team, for example, the teams to have enough numbers to control the race. For example, if you look at today's performance of Alpecin de Koning, Van der Poel could make it if he has a good day, but his team is not strong enough to have enough numbers over the high ski bell to then control the last part of the stage. Jumbo-Visma is strong enough. They will have 3 or 4 riders, right? So in that case, I think Van Aert has a chance, and then a guy like Van der Poel, if he's there, he would have to gamble and let Jumbo-Visma do the work and try to beat Van Aert in the sprint. He's done it in the past. So I think those two riders, Van Aert and Van der Poel, should be the two favorites for tomorrow's stage. But, a lone attacker like Tom Pidcock, for example, could also get it, or anybody else.
Yeah, and I'm sure you and Spencer are going to dig into a few more of those names that might be a little bit more of a long shot for outcomes. So you might want to check that out. Before we wrap here today, I'm going to throw a quick question at you. I didn't run this by you before, but I know you know the answer offhand. This should be easy, because I do want people to encourage people to write into us and ask Johan anything. This question is, on TV, they show highlights of the riders training at home in full kits. Is it part of their contract that anytime they are on a bike, it needs to be in team apparel and your bike sponsor? Can riders have sponsorships outside of the team sponsorships? That's from Tim in Atlanta.
Yeah, normally you're supposed to ride always in your team kit. You have a contract with your team. They pay your salary, a full-time salary, 12 months a year. So you're supposed to advertise your sponsors all the time. Normally, you can't have any competing sponsors. You can have private sponsors as long as they're not competing with any of the team sponsors. Now, there's a few exceptions to this. One of them, for example, is, and I'm always asking myself the question, I mean, he must have a special condition in his contract, is Rigoberto Urán. Rigoberto Urán has his own brand. He has his own brand, Go Rigo. And I see him training all the time in his clothes, and not in EF clothes, or very, very seldom. Whenever he's on social media, he's in his clothes and actually promoting his clothing brand. So I don't know how that works. He must have a special clause in it, but normally when you're out on training at training camps, training by yourself, at any time, you're supposed to ride in the team clothes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sending that question in, Tim. We really appreciate it. And you can send in questions for future shows. Anything you want to ask Johan, send it to themove@wedo.team. I need to check. Didn't we do JB2 at wedo.team at one point? I'll double check on that today. We're getting back into the groove. In fact, Spencer is waiting in the wings here in Aspen, Colorado, to jump in so you guys can do outcomes. So you can get their more in-depth predictions on tomorrow's show by getting a season pass at wedo.team. So Johan, thank you. It's a pleasure to be back and on video for the first time. Not that we're the prettiest people on earth, but reaching those YouTube people who were wondering where you were. So thank you very much for your time and input.
Thank you, JB. Speak tomorrow.